Battle Creek, and thanks for joining us for another episode of Our View. Joining us today is Cherise Buchanan from Michigan Works, also Upjohn Institute.
Correct.
Of course, the lovely Kayla Johnson, our work experience trainer, and Valerie Whitney, our program coordinator, and then, of course, everybody knows me, Teresa Mamini Young, Executive Director for Women's Co-op. So, Cherie, we invited you on today for a couple different things, but really just for girl chat. But we wanted to start out the conversation talking about Battle Creek Connect. It's something that Women's Co-op is invested in, Goodwill Industries, the college, and several other partners. Tell us why we're all invested in it.
So Connect Battle Creek is something that was basically created for the community. So as we know, we all work with individuals who have so many different barriers that they face in their life towards their employment. So we wanted to create kind of a centralized place where people could come, get information on resources, as well as businesses to get aided from organizations to help them to retain their employees. So this is a website that's kind of like a one-stop shop. So in this community, we know we have transportation. Sometimes it's a barrier for individuals. And when you're looking for resources, you're going from the north to the south, the east, and the west. Instead of doing all that, all you have to do is pull out your phone, get on the computer or your tablet, and you can pretty much find out that same information right there. So if you go to www.connectbattlecreek.com, you go to Job Seeker, you go to the Connect Me tool, and basically you fill out this quiz talking about what barriers do you face towards getting a job or maybe keeping your employment. So by doing that, it allows you to get a list of different community organizations that may be able to help you with different resources.
I think I really like the feature for our population because we were just talking about this just yesterday too, that, you know, yes, there's resources out there in the community to meet your needs, most of your needs. I mean, we know, all of us know there are gap in services.
Absolutely.
But does anybody realize the time and effort that it takes to make all those connections?
Absolutely.
And it's so nice to be able to go to one place and not just look for the job and get the job there, and then I've got to go someplace else to figure out the daycare and someplace else to figure out the transportation, and you know, maybe food is an issue until I get my first paycheck. Like, it's really all right there. That was the reason that we were really fond of Connect Battle Creek.
And I think it's really helpful for mamas who have little ones, because trying to tote your little ones all over the city, it's not a fun experience, right? So,
but that's not to negate that people won't have to follow up with appointments to these different agencies.
Yes, absolutely.
But it also can connect you directly to those agencies and a staff member. So if you are having an issue like, hey, I have a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old, so it's really hard for me to come for appointments, they could make other arrangements, like to do phone appointments or really treat it like a case-by-case basis. I mean, we will, like we always have, but I think that other partners are open to that as well.
Yeah, I think a lot of places are open to that, especially with what's going on in today's climate. And so by having that website and knowing, okay, these are, you know, the 4 organizations that I want to connect with, so I can call them, I can email them, I can go to their website, I can see what they require and talk to them before I even go.
Right. Right, because I'm not going to waste my trip either.
Absolutely.
Only to find out I didn't qualify, or this isn't really what I thought it was.
Absolutely.
I think that another thing that I really like about this, and we just talked to Teresa Durham our last episode about some of the things the college was doing.
Awesome.
In relation to, it's not education, but it definitely affects your ability to be educated, right? Like putting the snack baskets out for people who might be hungry, because who can go to class and be hungry? This is kind of the same thing to me. It's us 4 work for, well, the main consortium partners. We have other partners now, but the main 4 that started this, that actually drove this work towards creating Connect Battle Creek, is us realizing that, yes, our mission might be to put people to work, but we have to understand that in order to put people to work, you have to pay attention to them being hungry and overwhelmed and having, you know, maybe needing to speak to somebody in a mental health world about those things, or the fact that, yes, I can start this job for you this week, but while I'm there, I'm going to be worried that my kids are at home hungry because I didn't get my first paycheck to buy food. I mean, or I'm facing eviction, I'm surfing on someone's couch. I mean, all of that stuff matters to how well I can focus on this opportunity that you're trying to give me.
Absolutely. I think that's something that's really important to know is that before just saying, hey, we're going to put this website out, it's for the community, here you guys have it, let's go. We actually had community members come in and do focus groups and talk about what would be important to them. Actually look at, some of the pictures and things that we had going on with the website to make sure that it really represents this community. And so when you go on that website, you'll see these ladies right here sitting with me. You'll see some of the other partners within the community. You'll see some individuals who have been a part of some of our programs.
Well, and the graduates,
Yes.
Some of our members who have seen this website recognize some of those graduates that
Absolutely.
they're showing on the screen. Oh, I know her. Kayla just said this morning she went to school with one of those graduates.
Awesome.
And you're right, that gives it that community feel, right?
Absolutely, which we think is really important.
I think that's one of the major things too. Like if it's just stock photos, you don't really relate to it. But if you see it and there's someone on there then you're like, hey, maybe this really does work because so-and-so went through it and
Well, look
I
at
know
her.
them.
She's
Right.
wearing a uniform. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I think also, so for anyone who goes to visit the website, if you go to the homepage and you scroll down, there's actually a little video right there. And that video actually walks individuals through, like, how does this work? Because sometimes when you go to a website, you're looking for resources, it can become a little overwhelming, right?
Oh, is that the Together We Work they're showing on the screen right now?
Yes, absolutely. Yes,
Okay.
yes. So if you just click on that, it plays a video. It's only about maybe 3 minutes, but it tells you exactly how everything works. And then if that doesn't work for you, there are ways on the website to be able to contact someone and speak with someone. If you don't feel like you're finding what you really need, then you can send a message and then someone will get back with you and try to connect you where you need to go. We are still recruiting more organizations to get onto this website. And it's really easy. They just go to connectbattlecreek.com, go to organization, and then register their organization. So any nonprofit or organization in the community who is looking to help individuals with barriers that they may be facing towards employment and things like that, we want them on this website. So I encourage anyone who is, a executive director or a program manager, anything like that. If you are not on this website, we want to get them on there as well.
So you heard that, Battle Creek. Cherise Buchanan needs you if you have an organization or a service that you want to bring to families that are trying to enter the workforce, and you have some kind of supports. Even if it's that you run a daycare out of your home and you can be a daycare provider for one of these families, you should be registering on that site. And if you are a person who wants to find this path to upward mobility and you need those resources, this is the place to go to connect to those services.
Absolutely.
Cherie, thank you so much. And the website again for everybody, it's on the screen, www.connectbattlecreek.com.
Absolutely, thank you.
And if they did have questions about the website, who could they contact if they just wanted
They
to call
can contact
someone?
me. I'm right down at Michigan Works, myself and Jaquez Warren. We're both working with this. But if they just, call Michigan Works, say I'm looking for Cherise Buchanan, then I can help give them some information about the website.
Okay, so it's Cherise Buchanan at Michigan Works Southwest, or you can call Kellogg Community College and ask for Jaquez Warren.
Yep.
Thank you.
No problem.
So we did bring you here for Girl Chat.
Oh.
And so we've been doing this thing where we broke the Bible down into books, and we're treating it like a book club. And so we have a little group of women who get together, and each month we read a different book. And then we get together at the end of the month and we discuss it. Right?
Okay.
And it's how we feel about it, and it's not coming from a religious perspective.
Okay.
It's coming from a human perspective.
Okay.
The interesting thing that I've been noting, Cherie, is that we've done 2 months now.
Okay.
We read Ruth, and then we read Esther.
Okay.
And everyone else who was in this Bible group got all these really cool things. Like, I got them too, but that wasn't my thing. They were focused on, Kayla got Ruth was ride or die, and I want to be ride or die like Ruth. And for Esther, it was maybe you were created for this very time, right? Me, I got stuck in the why were women so devalued? Like, we're such an important thing to being human, right? Because we grow the little humans and we give birth to these little humans, and we're the nurturers. Like, we're an important part of the puzzle. And it just felt like Ruth couldn't even go out and collect wheat that was dropping on the ground without being a fear of being attacked or something happening to her. And then you talk about Esther, who couldn't even talk to her husband, the king, unless she was summoned. And she feared for her life to even go say something, so tossing all this around, and we're talking about it, and we're the Women's Co-op, you knew that. And so we're really big on women, but we're also really big on family. And so one of the things that we've been unpacking over this last year, and I think I credit, and Valerie does too, don't you, the post-pandemic, to kind of bringing some things to light, that in reality, our network, runs off of the women, right? So if you are a male and you come to our organization, you can join and take our training, take our GED courses, you can get some supportive services, but you're not a part of the network. It's the women. Now, if I'm married, or I have a significant other or partner, he can be part of the network with me, but he's not part of that network. I am. I'm the one that goes on the roster. I'm the one that gets called. But it's not because we're trying to exclude that, right? But we're starting to see that all of these things, unpacking it, comes back to one central area of looking at the family as a whole. And there are ways to do that. So take, for example, you have children and you're not with the children's father. That does not mean that he can't be included in the picture of the goal for the family, right? Like we used to say, and we were just talking about this morning, and I feel terrible, so anybody that's listening know that we're like self-correct in this. A woman would say to us, and we'd say, and dad, when we're filling out the intake form, and they would say, not involved. And we'd go, okay, check that box, done, right? Now we're wanting to slow down and ask more questions. Why? Because in some cases, maybe there are reasons why that's not healthy or good for the family. But in a lot of reasons it is. And what's wrong with us taking that deeper dive and saying, well, does dad just need work? Because, he can come for a training program here. And being able to give services to the whole family. Now that we've unpacked all that, who else wants to weigh in?
So what we're looking to do is make the families in our community strong. And while we've always looked at if we make the mother strong, then the family itself will negate that as well. So we can make the mother strong, we can then work with her, and if she becomes employed and then the father is in the picture, he becomes employed because now the two of them together can make one household. Then the children see mom and dad both work, mom and dad both got a diploma, however that may be, then they're being raised in that atmosphere. But when it's not good for the mom or for the dad to be together, maybe their relationship is toxic, maybe there's domestic violence involved, maybe they just need, that's how they were raised, and unfortunately that is the case with a lot of our folks. Well, my dad ran off when I was younger, so I don't know what it's like to have that father and mother kind of value. So what we wanted to do was look at the whole family as a unit and try to provide some programming for the whole family.
Well, I mean, just to encourage that family wellness, right? Like we can see that 80-some% of our families are matriarchal in nature.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that we have to exclude these fathers. And that we can't encourage the mothers to not exclude them either. Because what we see is that nobody's really offering that type of service, right? Like if the mom says this is a matriarchal family and I'm a single mom with my kids, we just put her in the box that's marked single mom with kids. Or dads too, I mean, in all fairness.
Absolutely.
You serve a population where you serve both, where we mostly deal with the moms, but there are single dads out there too, but we just put them in that box and label them, well, that's where they are in society, right? But we don't have to. Mom and dad do not have to be together in the same home. And I am, openly saying there may be times when that's not healthy to put them together.
Right.
But that also doesn't mean that it isn't healthy to keep dad engaged with the children. Like there are ways to be able to do this, because I believe, and I think all of us sitting here, I hope, believe that it's better for a child to be engaged with both parents.
Even if it is co-parenting and not cohabitating,
I mean, I think a lot of the problems that we face with behavioral issues in kids and just societal issues as a whole really stems back to needing this family unit. And I'm not coming from a place where I'm saying people should get married and stay married, people who have children should stay together forever, because that's not realistic. It's not who we are. But that doesn't mean that we can't still be together for our kids. Like, people do it every day.
Yeah, I think that when you think about it that way, like even mothers and fathers who are co-parenting, and they can still, if they work together, to form that bond or the family wellness and coming together, like, okay, we're coming together as a family and we're going to focus on these goals, or we can do this together, or, you know, however we make it work for the children. Even though we don't live together, I feel like at the end of the day, it is about the bond, the connection, the wellness of the family. It's not, okay, we live together, so everything is perfect. You know, because that could be actually worse than being separated and being healthy. So I don't think it's necessarily like you have to live together in order to have that family wellness. I think that you can do it, co-parenting, and I think that's huge to bring that into the co-op and into our community too, because, you know, there's a lot like when external things get involved with, you know, significant others and the drama and this or that. But if you can kind of just stay on the focus of like, okay, like the kids need this, I'm their mother and that's their father, and we need to do this together, and we can do this together, and we have the supports to do this together. I think it's a lot different than just being like, oh, well, dad, mom, the kids. You know, just kind of bringing that in is really helpful, and I think that's what matters at the end of the day. Not that we share a roof, but that we share our bonds wherever we are.
Absolutely, and I think in that, you know, society-wise, we're really about self-wellness, right? Self-nurturing, self-wellness. Why can't we push for family wellness too? We have lots of things for self-wellness.
I think that I just saw someone make a post on Facebook speaking about how fathers should be in their children's lives, and sometimes people are choosing, you know, the streets or drugs or other things instead of being a part of their kid's life. And so I don't condemn anyone for however their children came to be, because I think children are blessings from God. And I also feel that oftentimes people are engaging in these activities not realizing, oh, a baby could come out of this. We all know biologically, like, that's what can happen. But most people aren't thinking that's going to happen to me all the time.
And then you're not focused there.
Right. And then now you have this child is like, I don't want to be with you. I don't like you. I never thought about you as a parent with my child. I never thought about co-parenting with you. I never thought about what that would mean, right? But I think what has to happen is, irregardless, the children are here. So we have to let go of pride. We have to let go of egos. We have to have a shift in our mindset and realize I am no longer a child because now I have a child. So I need to grow up and do what's going to be best for the children, not always what's best for me alone, right? Like, only thinking about myself, it's kind of selfish once you have a child. And so I think that co-parenting is important. I think that oftentimes the parents let their relational issues stop that. And I have people in my life who are dealing with things. I go to court with someone because of issues with the other parent. I'm like, gosh, wouldn't it just be great to not have to deal with all of that, right? And to be able to say, okay, let's put aside our differences and let's make a family plan as to what will work for us. I also think that oftentimes it's hard for people to really focus on certain things because I'm worried about everything else, right? But for me, I'm like, working in an agency, I'm like, how do we help them to get rid of some of these barriers here so that they can begin to focus on those other things, right?
And that's exactly what I think we're talking about, is that we've always said, like Val said, make the mama strong, because then she'll make the baby strong. And this is what we're working with, you guys. She's a single mom. Never did we, you know, expand that to say, why can't we encourage family wellness here? And again, I mean, I know I keep saying this, but I don't want somebody calling me later and saying, Teresa, I understand there are some situations where this isn't safe or healthy for the mom or the children. And in those cases, I'm not advocating for this to happen. But you guys, there's a lot of times when it's just that drama you're talking about that causes this. Or, you know, me and Val have Kayla, a baby, and then me and Val aren't together anymore, and I get together with Cherie, and Cherie don't like Val. And so then it's about this, and we're all mixed up in that drama, and there's Kayla sitting over there just having to take all this in.
And I think
that it could start at our organization, well, not just at our organization, but it could start if we all looked a little deeper at looking at the family unit, whether it's together and intact or not.
Yeah, because I think the thing that also realizes children are growing up in these toxic environments. Children absorb everything. They see everything. They mimic things. They remember things. And we're creating, children who are seeing parents fighting and arguing. And, for us, it's like if I have any children around me who have a parent who is not involved or maybe not, I do my darndest not to ever speak ill of their parent in front of them.
Absolutely.
Because they love their mom or their dad, irregardless.
It's half of them, and they know that. At some level, they understand that.
And sometimes that's one of the hardest things that we deal with parents. Like, in classes that we teach, it's like one of the things you have to understand is that your child is a sponge and they're soaking everything up you say and do. And so when you say this bad thing about that person, don't think they're not going to repeat that, or that they're not internalizing
that and say, yes, my mommy is bad because I heard my daddy saying
and my
that my mommy is bad and my daddy,
And I
mean, these are little minds.
And I also say, and so I probably get on people's nerves sometimes, right? Well, he's this and he's that, or she's this and she's that. I'm like, but you chose to have a baby with them.
Right.
At some point, they were good enough for something for you. And so now you don't get to demean that person now because you're angry because you've created this little life and you need to be mindful of that. Because the things you're instilling in them, that's what they're going to grow up with, right? And then what kind of relationships would they get in? What kind of things would they say? What kind of behaviors are now coming out in schooling because of the things they're hearing you say? So I think as a mom and as a dad, it's your responsibility to kind of guard that child as much as possible and try to do your best to bring them up as healthy of an environment as you can, because there's enough toxicity and things in the world that in their home they should feel, the most safe, the most,
should be their safe
peace.
haven.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I'm hoping that with this shift that Co-op is making, because we're changing it, right? So like if I'm talking with a mom now, before, if she said, well, I don't get child support, I would say, oh, well, let's file some in front of the court papers, right? Now I say, well, does baby daddy work? And we ask the questions of, does he need help? Oh, he needs a GED. Do you know we have a GED program here? Do you know there's a GED program over at Millerstone? Can we help with that? Well, can we reach out to dad and see if we can be helpful in some way? This is not the way we ever used to think, but I think thinking that way, we're not going to change things overnight. But we are going to start a trend, at least among our families, to get them thinking that family wellness is the direction we want to move in. And being able to have those conversations during case management to say, look, you have a baby with this person. And somehow you have to set the differences aside that you can't stand looking at his ugly mug to he is your child's father and look away,
And if it's toxicity between you and him and perhaps the new person that's in your life now, what's causing that? Is it ego? Like you said, you're going to have to let go of that pride, that ego. All of that's got to go to the wayside so that these children will understand that, hey, when I was growing up, mom and dad separated, but mom and dad still allowed us to, we still seen dad, dad still played a huge part in our life. And even though mom had this other fella now, they still were there. So
yeah, and there are families, like I've seen them growing up and around families who did separate, got together with other significant others, and the four of them all parent, and that can be done too. I just think as a mother, you have to set a boundary that, hey, I still deal with this person because he is my children's father, and I fully intend to do that, and I don't want to have a problem with you over that. But when they're getting together the way that Cherise alluded to earlier, sometimes we're not always thinking of these things, but we need to. We need to be aware of it.
Yeah, I think talking on the shift and then kind of what you brought up, Teresa, about your takeaway from the books we're reading in the Bible and how women didn't have the value. And then it's kind of interesting, like perpetuating that, like through early years, through the co-op, like, okay, single mother, check, the father's not in the picture, okay, bye, and we move on, right? So it's kind of interesting, like, as far as women and male roles in life and relationships and households, and then to go on and then like where the women are nurturing and they're taking care of the home and they're feeding and bathing and doing all of those things, and the male having his role, and then going forward, dealing with women or working with women in the co-op, and then just saying like, okay, we have to make the mother strong because she's going to be the backbone to do all these things. It's kind of like perpetuating, those older values too. So I think like speaking on the shift and how it's come in and how it's going to move us forward is really, really cool that way.
I think when you look at roles, right, I personally believe there are some things that maybe a woman is better than or maybe a man is more equipped to do, but I think ultimately you need to look at each person differently and say, what out of these things, what are you best at? What am I best at? Because you may be with a man who can cook way better than you can.
I am.
And so it's like, if he can cook better than you can, then why do I have to be the one in the kitchen every day? So I think you look at each individual as an individual and say, how do we work together? Because I think sometimes when you have certain roles, it can breed a competition that doesn't need to be there. It can breed frustration. And even though you may not be the best cook, if he's tired or something's going on, maybe you will get in there and do your best, Teresa, do your best. But I think look at those things like, what are you best at? What can you do? And how do we work together? Yeah. So I think ultimately speaking about family wellness, the child's wellness, the mom's wellness, the dad, it's just how can we all work together?
Yeah, because at the end of the day, what defines a functional family is not a list of you need to do this and this and this and this. It's that family functions and every member of that family gets their needs met. Nobody defines what that has to look like, and that's what we're starting to teach at Co-op. Like, nobody has to define that. If your husband cooks better, get his in the kitchen.
And I'll tell you, I
have to put labels on things.
I'm not a mom yet, biologically, but I take care of a lot of kids. And so it's like, this is my family. Our family unit consists of my mom who is grandma, my brother who has children, my sister who has a child, and then they have TT. And TT steps in. TT goes to the football games. TT does hair. TT goes to parent-teacher conferences if that's what's needed. Because if that's what our family needs, then that's what I'm going to do. So, do what you got to do.
You're also very amazing at the other things that you do. We appreciate you very much.
I appreciate you.
We can all get nurtured by her, too. I don't know if you guys know this or not, but a couple times I've needed to be nurtured, and Cherise got me. So, if you ever need it.
Okay.
I'm doing my best.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today, and thank you, Battle Creek, for joining us today. I think this is something we should keep discussing. I think it's something that we should keep looking at, and I think it's something that we should be discussing as a community. So, thanks so much for letting us start those conversations. Have a good night.